Most underrated aspect of every GTA game starting with GTA 3. Gotta go with its storytelling. Back in 2001, Rockstar did something pretty special here. They took our mute hero Claude and turned what could have been a weakness into a strength. Think about it. By making Claude silent, they let us project ourselves into his betrayal and quest for revenge. We're not just watching his story unfold, we're living it through every backstab and double cross in Liberty City. The way they structured the story is actually super clever. You start off as this small-time criminal, betrayed and left for dead, and gradually work your way up through Liberty City's criminal underworld. Each new boss and territory opens up naturally, and you really feel like you're climbing that criminal ladder. The story never feels forced. Every new contact and mission makes sense for where you are in the game. Let's talk about the side characters for a minute. Even with the technical limitations of 2001, Rockstar created some unforgettable personalities. You've got the paranoid Don Salvatore Leone, the manipulative Catalina, and my personal favorite, the absolutely unhinged Donald Love. These characters don't just give you missions, they pull you deeper into Liberty City's web of corruption. What's really impressive is how the story gradually expands in scope. You start off doing small jobs for the Leone family, but by the end, you're caught up in this massive conspiracy involving the Colombian cartel, the Yakuza, and corrupt media moguls. It's like a crime movie that keeps raising the stakes, but it never feels unrealistic within the game's world. The environmental storytelling deserves some credit too. Liberty City itself tells a story, from the rundown streets of Portland to the glitzy high-rises of Staunton Island. The city changes as you progress, and the radio stations add another layer of narrative that makes everything feel connected. Looking back, GTA 3 laid the groundwork for how open-world games could tell complex stories while still giving players freedom. Sure, later games in the series had more elaborate plots and fully voiced protagonists, but there's something special about how GTA 3 did so much with seemingly so little. That's what makes it a masterclass in game storytelling, not despite its limitations, but because of how creatively they worked within them. They proved you don't need endless cutscenes or dialogue to tell a compelling story. Sometimes, less really, is more. Next, GTA Vice City and its side missions. Let's start with the taxi missions. Sure, every GTA has them, but Vice City turned them into this addictive sprint against time. The way the game gradually ramps up the challenge, forcing you to learn every shortcut in the city, is just brilliant game design. And that special taxi you unlock? Worth every minute of frustration. Then there's the pizza boy deliveries. On paper, it sounds boring. You're just delivering pizzas on a scooter. But the way it teaches you to navigate the tight alleyways and back streets of Vice City is genius. It's like Rockstar created this whole mini-game just to make you a better driver without you even realizing it. The vigilante missions deserve special mention. Cruising around in a police car, chasing down criminals. It's like you're starring in your own 80s cop show. The increasing difficulty actually makes you feel like you're climbing the ranks from beat cop to super detective. But my personal favorite? The asset missions. Buying properties isn't just about making money. Each business comes with its own unique set of missions that tell little self-contained stories. The film studio missions are basically a love letter to 80s action movies, complete with ridiculous stunts and over-the-top scenarios. The ice cream factory missions take a seemingly innocent business and turn it into this hilarious dark comedy about drug distribution. The Malibu Club missions perfectly capture that Miami Vice vibe, letting you run your own nightclub while dealing with protection rackets and rival gangs. Even the Printworks missions, which could have been boring, turn into this entertaining story about counterfeit money and small-time hustlers trying to make it big. What makes these side missions special isn't just their variety. It's how they all feel like they belong in Vice City. They're not just random tasks, they're little stories that flesh out this vibrant, corrupt paradise. Each one adds another layer to your understanding of the city and your role in it. And let's not forget the biker gang missions, which give you this whole different perspective on Vice City's criminal underworld. They show you the grittier, more street-level side of crime compared to Tommy's usual high-rolling adventures. The genius of Vice City's side missions is that they don't feel like side content at all. They feel like essential parts of the experience that you actually want to complete. They're not just filler. They're carefully crafted pieces of content that expand the game's world and story in meaningful ways. San Andreas. Probably its customization ability. Let's start with CJ himself. The body transformation system wasn't just some superficial feature. It was this intricate system where your actions actually shaped your character. Hit the gym too much? You'd bulk up like a bodybuilder. Eat too many Cluckin' Bell burgers? CJ would actually gain weight. And the fact that NPCs would comment on your appearance? That was mind-blowing for 2004. The clothing system was equally impressive. We're not talking about just switching outfits. You could mix and match different pieces, change your hairstyle, add tattoos. Each neighborhood had its own clothing stores with unique styles. Want to look like a Grove Street gangster? Hit up Binko. Feeling fancy? Head over to Zip. The way your appearance could affect how gang members and civilians reacted to you added this whole new layer of immersion. Then there's the car customization. Rockstar didn't just give us a few paint options. They gave us full-on mod shops. Hydraulics, nitrous, custom wheels, spoilers, side skirts. The combinations were endless. Each lowrider could be turned into this unique expression of your style. And let's not forget the hydraulics competitions. They turned car customization into this whole mini-game that was actually fun to play. Your reputation, your look, your car. It all contributed to this feeling that this was your unique version of CJ. Your unique story in San Andreas. No two players' CJs looked exactly alike, which was pretty revolutionary for a PS2 game. Even the fighting styles, you could learn different martial arts from various gyms. Each style had its own moves and animations. This wasn't just cosmetic either. Different styles were better suited for different situations. The fact that this was implemented on PlayStation 2 hardware is honestly mind-blowing. The genius of San Andreas's customization wasn't just in its depth. It was in how natural it felt within the game world. Everything had a purpose. Everything made sense for the story they were telling. You weren't just playing dress-up. You were shaping CJ's identity in this massive living world. San Andreas set standards for customization that even many modern games struggle to match. All this on a console that had less processing power than today's smartphones. It really shows what's possible when developers push creative boundaries instead of just technical ones. GTA 4 and its consequences-based storytelling. Let's start with the big story choices. The game presents you with these massive decisions, like whether to kill Playboy X or Dwayne, but it doesn't scream, "This is a major choice" at you. Instead, it lets these moments feel natural, like real decisions Nico would face in his life. And the consequences? They aren't just some immediate reaction. They echo throughout the rest of the game in subtle but meaningful ways. But it's not just the big dramatic choices that matter. Even small decisions like ignoring Roman's bowling invites have consequences. Miss too many hangouts, and you'll feel it in his attitude toward you. His phone calls become more desperate or bitter. The game makes you feel the weight of neglecting relationships. It's this brilliant simulation of the immigrant experience, balancing personal connections with the hustle to make it in Liberty City. The dating system is particularly clever. These aren't just simple side activities. Your success or failure in these relationships actually impacts the story. Take Kate McCreary. Your decisions with her don't just affect your romance options, they tie directly into the game's tragic themes about the cost of revenge and the impossible dream of a fresh start. Then there's the way the game handles business relationships. People remember who you've helped and who you've burned. Double-cross the wrong person, and you might find yourself without crucial support later in the game. Side with someone in a conflict, and their enemies will remember. The game creates this complex web of loyalty and betrayal that feels genuinely dynamic. There's no morality meter, no obvious good or bad choices. Instead, you're just trying to navigate this morally gray world as Nico, making choices that feel right in the moment, then dealing with whatever comes from them. Sometimes being good leads to terrible outcomes, while morally questionable choices might save someone you care about. The phone system plays a huge part in this. Those calls aren't just mission triggers. They're constant reminders of the relationships you're building or burning. Every ignored call, every missed date, every broken promise, it all adds up to shape how people see Nico and how his story plays out. Even the endings. Both versions feel earned based on your choices throughout the game. There's no clearly good ending, just different consequences of the path you chose. It's storytelling that respects player choice while acknowledging that sometimes there are no right answers. Grand Theft Auto 4's consequence system was way ahead of its time. While other games were doing obvious good versus evil choices, Rockstar created this nuanced system where every decision felt personal and the consequences felt real. It's something that even many modern games haven't managed to match. GTA Vice City Stories had one of the best combat systems in the series. First off, let's appreciate what they managed to do with those limited PSP controls. They didn't just port over the basic Vice City combat, they rebuilt it from the ground up. The addition of that brutal neck-breaking move wasn't just for show, it completely changed how you approached close-quarter combat. Suddenly, stealth takedowns became a viable strategy in a GTA game. The melee combat system was miles ahead of its time. Remember how in previous GTAs, you basically just mashed the attack button? Well, VCS gave us actual combat moves and combinations. Vic could string together punches, perform counters, and execute those satisfying finishing moves. The animations were fluid too, impressive for a PSP game. The way they handled weapon combat was clever too. The refinements to the targeting system made firefights feel more tactical. You could actually take cover and pop out to shoot, which might seem basic now. But this was pretty advanced for a handheld GTA in 2006. Empire-building missions really showed off the combat system's depth. When defending your businesses, you couldn't just run and gun. You had to actually think about positioning and use different combat strategies. The improved melee system meant you weren't helpless when you ran out of ammo either. Controls were intuitive despite the hardware constraints. They didn't just cram in features. Everything served a purpose and felt natural to use. Finally, GTA 5. To be honest, GTA 5 had its own internet, so that's gotta be it. It's absurd for PlayStation 3 era. We're talking about almost 100 different interactive websites, each with its own personality and purpose. Want to stalk people? Fire up Life Invader? Looking to waste money on useless stuff? There's Bleeder. Need a car? Hit up Legendary Motorsport. Each site isn't just a static page either. They're fully functional with their own features and interactions. The amount of satire packed into these websites is insane. The dating sites are hilarious parodies of real-world alternatives, complete with the most ridiculous user profiles you'll ever read. The news websites actually update based on your actions in the game, making the world feel more reactive and alive. The best part? The attention to detail. The fake ads, the user comments, the pop-ups. Everything feels like a twisted mirror of our actual internet. They even included those sketchy investment scam sites and conspiracy theory forums. It's like Rockstar created a complete ecosystem of digital insanity. And let's talk about the functionality. You can actually buy stocks, interact with social media, read news articles, purchase properties and buy vehicles, all through these in-game websites. This isn't just window dressing, it's a whole system that integrates with the game's mechanics. The fake email system deserves special mention. The spam emails, the scam attempts, the corporate newsletters, they nailed that feeling of having an overcrowded inbox. And sometimes these emails actually contain useful information or lead to side missions. Even the loading screens and error messages are packed with jokes and references. It's this level of commitment to the bit that makes GTA 5's internet feel special. They could have just made a few basic websites for essential functions, but instead, they built this whole parallel digital world. Looking back, this was Rockstar's way of satirizing not just the internet, but our entire digital culture. From social media addiction to cryptocurrency scams, they somehow managed to predict and parody trends that weren't even mainstream when the game launched. And we are done. I hope you enjoyed the video. That's the beauty of Rockstar games, as they always try to innovate something even when it's risky. Anyways, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.